สมาคมทุนเทียนมนุษย์กัมพูชี HRAC ជាឃ្លាំងវិជាផ្ដល់ចំណេះដឹងជូនមិត្តគ្រប់គ្នា
I would like to invite Mr. Ouk Villa, Country Human Resource Manager at Cambodia Beverage Company Coca-Cola, to give the presentation. And his topic is compensation and benefits.
Our speaker share a lot of insights on how the laws govern and impact all of us. So now we move to a little bit specific subject on reward and recognitions, and see how what rewards will impact the HR function and the workforce as a whole. Okay, before we start this, okay, let's just look a little bit on who am I, where I come from. So basically, I was one of the children in the Khmer Rouge time, and the growth was very difficult time from 1975 during the Khmer Rouge time. So with that, I also wrote a story. So one of the writers in Children of the Killing Fields, published by Yale University of the US. And then step in, sorry. Okay, so during my education, I also started my first career at the university, and I'm one of the former IFL students here as well. So then I stepped in the corporate life in 1997. And so far, I'm an HR director for Coca-Cola. So that's briefly. So just a little bit information on what Coca-Cola is. So Coca-Cola started, in 1886. Along the way, its headquarters in the US. And now, Coca-Cola is 129 years. Okay, back to Cambodia. So our head office is in Road 5, along Road 5, and we have about 800, 900 employees. 99.8% are local. So this is a pride for all HR managers here as well. So we invest, this part of the HR core things to look at. We invest about 5% of our labor costs on staff development. Our annual turnover rate about 6% compared to the market, more than much lower than the market level. So we're gonna walk you through a little bit on what the markets would look like. In Cambodia, Coca-Cola started in 1963. So after the national elections in 1993, the Coca-Cola company came back to Cambodia again and started invest in 2008, 30 million. So 2015, invest another 100 million with the new plant. Okay, right. So now comes to the subject. So what pops up in your mind today, this morning, while you're sitting here? When you talk about the total reward or total compensation, so what pops up in your mind? Okay, let's spend a few seconds on this, because that will be the core slide. I walk you through, and we go back to that slide again. So the core slide, I have only 3 slides. Basically, but more on stimulate the thinking, because after this, we're gonna have the panel discussion, question and answers. So whatever question you have, then park aside, and we will discuss a lot more details. Okay, is it salary? Is it cash? Is it benefits? Non-cash? Is it a total reward? Is it a total compensation? Is it development and opportunity? Okay, so now just reflect to what you thought a few seconds ago. Is it? So how many people raise your hand now? Okay, that's good, less. What about flexi schedule? Organization. As an HR, how do we look at the employee inside? And how can we create, change, or adapt our strategy to respond to meet that expectation? And that one of the things that respond to Mr. Our speaker earlier, the change and expand, right? What about work-life balance? Have you thought about the Gen X, Gen Y? Do people have the same motivation? What about culture and workplace? So this is more on the questions. I'm triggering your thought, and then we can discuss a lot more details. So what does it mean to us as an HR? And how can we overcome? And how can we change? And how can we adapt our existing process and procedures? And how can we create the capabilities? Okay, so next, I like questions, and that's why it's one of the items I picked up this morning. Encourage disagreement, right? How can you encourage disagreement? Just by encouraging questions. So some questions you may agree, and some questions you may not agree. Okay, now come back to this. What challenges are we facing? Okay, let's think about that a few seconds. Have a look at this. What levels are the most challenges in the workforce? Or you have challenges in the whole workforce? Or you have challenges with the manager's level? Or you have challenges with the middle management levels? Do we understand our employees' profile? And do we understand why we lose people? And where or who did we lose them to? Does it make sense? Okay, let's look at next. Let's look at this. Is it our problem? High staff turnover. Is it a problem? Do you have that problem? Every company has that problem. But what rate are you having? So how the markets look like? How can we create a retention program or reward strategy to respond to that challenges? I had the problem, I cannot find qualified candidates. So why is that? The pay is not competitive. Corporate image. I believe very strongly in this corporate image. Some people, okay, no, I cannot join there because I work in international company, so this is a family business, and it's not standard. I want to work in a standard company and so forth. Is it one of the challenges we are facing as an HR? The most important thing is that internal challenges. So what are the internal challenges as an HR leader that we need to understand? Is it leadership? Is it a culture? Is it our process? Or do we create a policy, one size fits all? So what the future would look like then? Okay, look at the market based on Mercer survey, Mercer data. The turnover about 11%, while the staff turnover 26%, and management and sales 15%, or even higher. Why the leadership level, the executive leadership level is very low? 3, 4, 5%. Why is that? based on the research, 43% from now to the next 12 months, 43% of the company in Cambodia are expanding their workforce. Is it a surprise to you, 26% turnover? 43%, by 5% downsizing. So downsizing of 5% cannot supply the 43% if you do the math calculation, correct? So what is the message to us in Asia? 43%, and our turnover is high already. So which means in the next 12 months, we are highly likely lose a lot of talents. So start now looking at what are we having in terms of total reward in our company. If we are not ready now, it's too late. And that's why we must change. One of the messages, right? We must change before we change. Just change now. So if you are expanding, you have to develop your people ahead of time. You have to develop your leadership skills ahead of time. Attraction. I had a problem with attraction. So look at the total compensation benefits in the existing scheme. So if 43% is spending in 2016 onwards, and you are not sorting out this, so what's going to happen to you? And if you didn't really study to understand what the internal challenge is, so what the future going to be? So how can you step up in the public relations and promote more profile, more image of the organization? So for those organizations who are growing and moving to the standard organizations, this is one of the core part as well. How can you sell the organization? Some talents join the organization because of not very much at this part, perhaps. So people are different. And now it comes to the ASEAN integration. So this also plays a very critical part in how HR build the organization. The internal challenge. Remember, people leave the organization. It's not the organization. They leave the managers. That's a common message, right? People leave the managers. People resign because of the managers, because of the culture, and because of the leadership, not because of the company. Think seriously about this most of the time as an HR. And how can you cope up with this? So the slide I just showed you is just more on thinking and some statistics so that HR professionals start to think what should be the next strategy that you may want to embark on. So next slide, another questions. The question is not for you to answer. The question is for you to think and then throw at us the question during the panel discussion. Okay, so then those are the challenges. So what should we do? So what should we do as an HR from now to the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? The first question as an HR need to understand the business very well. HR need to understand the business environment. What are the challenges at the market there, out there? So the first question is that, what's your business doing? Is it profitable? What is the compensation philosophy? Okay, let's look at this. So defined. Look at your existing compensation scheme. What do you want? What strategy do you want? While the market is spending 43%, in the midst of losing a lot of staff. So what target, what policy, what philosophy would you want to do? You want to be the market level? Or you want to lag the market, behind the market, below the market? Or you want to lead the market? Or you want mixed? So what does it mean as an HR? Remember, people are motivated differently. So what scheme, what reward strategy that you may want to think about? If you look at the move, if you choose your target or your strategy, compensation strategy at the market level, don't forget the cost would move from year to year about 10%, no, 8%. This is based on research. This is not my number, it's research based. So if you choose your strategy at the market level, so what the cost that you would focus in the next 5 years? HR is a strategic department. So we need to think ahead of time, not at the time that we keep spending. At one point, you choose your strategy at the market level. You may maintain some staff, not attraction enough. And you may not be able to attract the stars, the potential, while you are expanding your business. So what do you want? So what is your philosophy? Look at your business strategy. Are you growing now? Are you expanding? Or just keep where it is? If you're growing, if you're expanding, should you look at the mixed strategy? Market level and lead the market. You need leaders, you need capabilities, you need skilled leaders to the organization, bring to organization to lead and to drive the business. Unless you have the core skill, good leaders, otherwise it's very challenging to drive your business while you're expanding. So you want that segmentation to lead the market. At the same time, don't forget the cost move are 10% average. Can you afford it? So look at the profile of the organization. So what level are we targeting now? Does it make sense? So just some of the tips. In total reward philosophy or strategy, let's think. Number one, your business side. Look at what you want to segment, what you want to target to support the business side, the business growth, the business operation. So set clearly on what's your compensation philosophy or policy, whatever you call. Consider segmenting associate levels. And this is important. You cannot create one strategy applies to all, to the rest of the employees. Employee or staffs are motivated differently. We're going to come to that later on. It doesn't matter how good strategy, how good plan, how good offers you are having at the moment. But the problem with the communication strategy, communication is come to a factor that may create a lot of positive impact or negative impact on this subject. build HR capabilities, not only for HR leaders, all business leaders, all line managers. Those are HR managers. HR leaders do not know everything. Our role is to develop, to direct, to support, to create tools and processes, to make sure the rest of leaders in the business, managers, line leaders, and so forth, can lead and can manage their function effectively. So build HR capabilities for leaders, line leaders, managers in different functions. And the message for those leaders are, they are HR leaders. Then in the organization, you create HR leaders in every functions. The corporate image, corporate profile. So the workforce culture, leadership capability. The last point I would put in here, we used to see a lot of what we call the one size fits alls. One size fits all. So now start thinking about moving forward. Does it work in your organization? Or would you want to look at the personalized reward strategy or flexi strategy? Because people have different motivations. Because it links to this, I share with you some of the 5 tips that I presented in the last workshop before. So compensation, that's one part, just one part of what I just talked about. But there's 5 tips that you may want to just think about, and I just share this quickly. They are the policy, define the policies. Okay, so understand your internal equity. Understand the market. And define what structure you want. Is it a mix? Is it lag the market, meet the market, or lead the market? And last point, don't forget this. Ask yourself, is it affordable? What's the market, what is the impact, financial impact? If you look at lead the market, about 10% cost increase every year. What happened in the next 5 years? If you choose the market level, the impact about 8% average. So, as an HR, is it the only thing? Is it only cash that we think about? So what about non-cash? Last slide, perhaps. What impacts total rewards? So we will go back to the first slide. Have you ever heard about Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Yeah? So there's different needs. You reward a security guard very well, for example, and you send him to the 5-star hotels for a holiday for 3 days, while he is struggling to make his life in a living. Your sales staff earn a few $100s and work so hard to earn an incentive, and all he needs just to make ends meet, right? To make just today living. But you offer him very good holiday and so on elsewhere. Does he really need that? Is he really motivated with that? Think about Gen X and Gen Y. So what is Gen Y's motivated? Gen Y is the millennium. So for those who are born, I think close to the 1993, something 93, 96, right? 96. Yeah, 1990, something like that. Those are dynamic. And most of the company have Gen Y. Most of the company have Gen Y. And they are so dynamic. A lot of Gen Y sitting in this room. Dynamic. So what is the most things motivated them a lot? Based on research, 80% of Gen Y is motivated by recognition, not about cash, not all about cash. Recognition, on-spot recognition. So do you want to create the rewards strategy that respond to your workforce segment? When you have a lot of Gen Y, think about that. 80% of Gen Y is motivated by on-spot recognition based on research. More than 60% of Gen Y want to make a difference. And they're high technology. Cash, yes. I just mentioned earlier. So how can we reward the employee and they appreciate that, they value that? They only value the recognition as long as it meets their needs, correct? So the slide you saw earlier, benefits. So what segment of employees that we think of, okay, non-cash, some sort of benefits? Development. Do we develop every single person? It's good that the organization has to develop every single person. Can you afford it? What are the most challenging? Come back to the last questions. What are your most challenging? Flexi schedule. Gen Y, they want flexi schedule. They won't have a weekends off. The pay is okay because Gen Y is more social, dynamic, networking. They are motivated with all of those stuff. They want to have less work days. Gen Y is also focused on work-life balance, lifestyle, iPhone, this, that, bit show off sometimes. So that kind of lifestyle of Gen Y. But reflects to the organization you are working or you are building. Do you have a Gen Y in the workplace? 90%, 80%, 100%. How can you create a reward strategy to respond to that, to retain and attract other talents? Culture, one other thing as well. So, what should we do as an HR leaders? Go back to the previous slide. Understand the organization profile. Understand your people. Where's your more challenges? What is your target in total reward? Do you want to create a one-size-fits-all strategy that may work very well at certain level and may not work for the rest of the organization? Or you want to work the flexi or personalized reward strategy that may fit different levels. I think this is my last slide. So if you have any questions, park your question aside. So during the panel discussion, and then we can discuss a lot more details. And my apology as well. I will stay until lunchtime. and I will leave after lunch because Coca-Cola have a annual staff party, so I have to be there. So any question during the panel discussion after this, after the break, then we can discuss more detail. Okay, so thank you. So my contact. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Keep in touch. Any question, you can email me anytime. Okay, thank you.